Good morning, everybody. If you are here, I asked a survey earlier, and it looks like everybody's a communication arts student. My name is Sterling Hundley, and I'll be your professor. This is my first lecture class, but this is not my first time lecturing. So I've got this really great headpiece here. Feels like a retainer that I'm wearing, so I'll get used to it if you can. Um, I asked just out of nerves before, so sorry you're done. I assume that we're in communication arts because there's something about the commercial arts industry that is compelling to you. There's something about wanting to take your talents, your wares, and be able to profit from those things. Yes? I get to a place with seniors and senior portfolio where they're like, you know what? I've been doing this for 4 years now, and it's not what I want. I want to do something else. And that's okay too. But this class is kind of the culmination of a lot of things. It's gaps in our education as artists, and how do we actually get the things that we're making or the services that we're providing out to market, right? So I've got a pretty bold premise with this class, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently than what's been done before. One, I know that this is a required class, but there are two sections of this class. You're either here because the other class was full. You like being here early in the morning. Maybe you had enough of college before be in person, right? If it's that, and maybe you've had a class with me before and you want to do that again. So hopefully it's one of those last two things, right? Either way, you're here, and you can kind of determine from how I present today if you want to stay in this section, if you want to do something else. But the premise is this: you each have to make your first dollar as part of the requirement of the class, and this is with your wares, okay? And I want you to feel like that. I want you to wait, what? What are we talking about here? You actually have to take something to market. This is going to count for a big chunk of your professional practice, of your grade. And this is kind of coming not from me, but from a platform that I'm a really big fan of. Anyone ever hear of Gumroad before? Okay. We're going to be using Gumroad as our default platform for training and information. It's really a strong platform. It's got a good audience. And we also have an opportunity to kind of bring in via Zoom the CEO and founder of Gumroad too. So it's going to be pretty exciting. If you don't know Sahil's work and you're looking for a kind of a good book to read to kind of jump into this, come on in. Good morning. Um, The Minimalist Entrepreneur. I'm in the middle of it right now, and I've really liked what I've read, right? Is there anybody out here who really enjoys business or the promise of business? All right, we get into arts, and there's a lot of people who treat it like a dirty word, right? Business. Business is a relationship, right? The difference with business is that we have commerce in the middle of it. And as a business person, you have to figure out how to take your talents and wares and package them in such a way that someone else sees value in it, right? It's not snake oil salesman. It's not being super slick or conning somebody. You genuinely want to solve problems with the things that you're producing so that someone else sees value and will pay you for it, right? And if you're not getting paid for your artwork, you've got to get paid doing something else, right? Anybody waiting tables in here? Nobody? You're all, that's amazing. I started off waiting tables, right? I worked at a gym for a while. All these things were happening. Good morning. As I'm developing my portfolio, trying to figure out my point of entry to a market, the things that I have to develop. And there's a big gap from when you leave being a student and you jump into the profession, whatever that profession is. That's where most students fail, right? Why do they fail? Well, it's not clear. There's no blueprint or script from where you are to where you're going to be. And we have to figure those things out. So you're curious, you have to, and those are the things that all of your professors will tell you that they can't teach, right? When you come to us and you say, I'm really interested in doing this thing, I want to make this thing, then you'll start to see all these resources presented to you. Oh, have you thought about this? Have you talked to this person? Have you gone here? Right? But if you don't know what you want, it's really hard for your professors to kind of help figure out how to put you in front of those things. All right. So excited, scared, nervous about making your first dollar, I'm here to help you. Okay. If you make $100, that's even better. If you make $1,000, pretty damn good. 10,000 bucks, you're doing okay. Would you believe that I've had seniors in senior portfolio before launch Kickstarter campaigns that pulled in over $10,000? All right. Just like you, they produced comics. They wanted to make limited edition screen prints, and they found a way to kind of package these things and get it out to market. Does that sound pretty good? All right. I like business. I like getting paid. When I was a student at VCU many years ago, my dad and mom are also VCU graduates, right? So that sounds maybe problematic, but I've tried to run away. I lived in Kansas City. I lived in New York. I lived in North Carolina, and they pursued me, chased me down, and invited me back to teach, right? This was after a career of about 12 years exclusively freelance, and I continued to start small businesses. But when I was a student at VCU, my dad, who's a businessman and an entrepreneur, said, "You know what they really need to teach those art students at VCU? They need to teach them business." The time was like, yeah, some business would be really great, right? So things kind of come. My mom is a designer. She's an artist by trade. She went to the design program here. And so I feel like I am perfectly positioned and evenly split between my mom and my dad. I'm a business person and I'm an artist, right? So I'm a bit flaky, but I can also be very focused and driven. All right. So a few things to kind of walk you through here with the class. I know that this was kind of just put up this late this morning. It was about midnight. I put it up. But your syllabus is here. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, we'll go through it real quick. And I will let you know that my intention is to record everything. Yes. You don't have access to it through the link in the actual. Okay. Okay, cool. Let me get that back to you all after class, but right now we'll look at the screen. Uh, so my intention is to record everything and to really treat this. This is kind of like a dad, if you will. I want. I know it's kind of lame, but it's really what it is. I want to bring a lot of people to talk to you all, to record this and share this out broadly. So I've got a Substack, got a YouTube channel. I want to post this out. It's going to be recorded for you in Canvas as well. But there's going to be documentation of all of this, right? It's not going to be just my opinion and my experience, but a lot of folks that are going to share how do you start something from nothing. Some of them are creative businesses, and some of them are businesses that are creative, right? So a lot of spectrum in here hopefully covers a lot of interest that you all have. And if that doesn't work, my personal background, there's a lot of things that I've gotten to do over the years. I started off as an illustrator. I worked commercially in magazines, books, advertising. I did film posters. I've done work for video games. I've done comic books. There's a myriad of industries. I've been a professional painter and obviously a professor, academic side. I've started small businesses. Years ago, I found that there was a real gap between our storytelling, things we wanted to make. So I spent most of my days inside a studio, and I grew up camping, doing a lot of outdoor adventure, and I realized that being locked inside is the last thing that I wanted. So I started an expedition company called Legendeer, and we took trips of creatives out to Banff and Zion. We went down to Bogota. We went to the New River Gorge, Yosemite. We did all 7 or 8 expeditions, and we also attracted people who were living off the grid creatively in vans, ultramarathoners, world-class climbers, and that those two worlds actually came together in a pretty magical way. So I've done a lot of things. One thing I do not lack is ambition. All right. So if you're ambitious, you want to do something with your talents, then hopefully I've had some experience that will kind of help you work through that. All right. So let me go through the syllabus here, explain how things are going to work. Again, when you're building a class like this, it's kind of like when I was building my expeditions. It's kind of like landing on the moon. I haven't done this before. right? So I've got some pretty big ideas for you all, some high expectations, and I will stumble from time to time. Okay. So if you let me kind of to be determined with a lot of these things, and if you let me kind of reorient, I will do the same. Right. So this is the plan as of now. First of all, make sure you're in the right place. This is section 2 of Creative Economy, Pilot and Enterprise. If you saw the thumbnail on Canvas, it says Think Louder, Creative Guidebook for the Wandering Mind. That's kind of my book and my premise and my platform. That's one of the things I've launched. All this information that I'm teaching is coming from that stuff I've put together. I've got a ton of writing. I've got a lot of things that I'm going to kind of start off with lectures where I'm going to just kind of read things and then fill in the gaps. So I've taken time to write them. You can go back and read them. They're all going to be there. Those of you kind of PDF that, I'll do my best to kind of put those in PDF forms too. So they're there to kind of go back and read. Okay, so I'm trying to make this stuff available in as many forms as possible. All right, so that is up there for you to see. We have links. Hopefully you can get to Discord from here once I share that out with you. Over on Discord, I know you're kind of completely tired of Discord by now, right? Discord servers I've started is just a really useful tool for more than anything for you all to communicate with each other. All right. So where I get nervous as a lecture class and not a studio class, which is what I've always taught, is I want you to have tangible outcomes. And when I say that I want you to make that first dollar, I need to be able to give you help. The best way I can help you is by helping yourselves. And we're going to class again, we have 55, 60 students into roughly cohorts. Right? If you don't know what cohorts are, there's small focused groups where you all will meet and kind of help each other kind of carry things forward. I can't possibly give feedback on logos and brand identity for everybody. So this is my way of kind of addressing that, right? So where does that idea come from? Again, when I was trying to figure out how to go from being somebody who was hired for one project at a time is illustration, which the way, on paper is probably the worst model that you can imagine, right? Like what do you hear about in business? You hear scalability, right? Reaching a bigger audience, raising your price points. Well, when you're a freelance illustrator or designer, you're solving one problem at a time, right? This bespoke practice where you're trying to identify yourself through your individuality and your distinction. So you're pushing away from the marketplace by finding your own personal voice. You build businesses around your own personal branding, sell or transfer if you ever want to leave. It's not the best business model on paper. Does it work? Sure. There's a lot of people who are doing it, but that is not what big business is looking at. It's another thing that I really like about Gumroad and the community and what Sahil's kind of writing about in this with the minimalist entrepreneur. When I started out, I was listening to things like different podcasts and different information, a lot of business things on passive income. That ring a bell, passive income? Anyone heard of that before? Does anyone have any passive income streams currently? I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you what they are, but maybe some. So these are systems that you can put in place that allow you to kind of generate revenue without any additional effort or with minimal additional effort, right? So I've got things on, as an example, my storefront on my website where I might make a sale today on something that I've got in inventory, right? So I've already made the thing. I warehouse it on my website and I can sell it out to people. Gumroad's the same way. There's a lot of things I do with education that are the same way. I'm on Proco, if anyone knows Proco. Fantastic resource too. I've recently kind of put my educational materials over there as well. It's built in the community. I don't have to do a whole lot beyond the initial launch. So that's kind of what the thinking with passive income is, that you can make money while you sleep, they say, right? So that gets into a whole other aspect here that we'll talk about. All right. Any questions with that information so far? So we've got permissions on the syllabus I got to give you so you can get to Discord. Once we get in here, I've actually just gone ahead and had Canvas split you up into cohorts. It's not your most ideal situation because you're not going to be hanging out with your best friend probably, but it's more like the real world with business and you're going to get to work with people off of kind of how you're assigned. All right. So the first hour here is going to be lecture. We're going to start off each class like that. I'm going to do my best to keep your attention. I just ask the respect of please don't get on social media or your cell phones. Your laptops are fine. It's whatever you need to do. Just try to put them away. My rule for me, I'll try to extend the same courtesy to you. More importantly, when I bring in guests, that's really important that we pay them the respect that they deserve for being here. I'm not paying anybody to be. So these are all people who want to help out. Okay. So that's kind of just a general rule. I have a policy on artificial intelligence, AI. Uh, I'm not a fan of generative AI. Okay. But I also work down at the medical campus, and I think that AI is actually going to solve a lot of our wicked problems with health and medicine. So I'm not an absolute no, but as a professor and as an educator, I want you to struggle and I want you to learn from those struggles. And there's things that will speed that, and there's going to be times where AI is absolutely unavoidable. I don't think I can do Zoom these days without some uh, involvement of AI and how it processes information. There's just things that happen that are hard baked into all the software we use these days and everything else. But where I have a problem is where it takes away your opportunity to learn and to struggle. And if you choose to use AI down the road, that's great. If you come up with a business prospect or a project where you have to use AI, come talk to me. Okay. So again, I'm not a hard no on it, but I have to kind of be convinced that that's the right solution for you to kind of get past something. Does that sound fair? Okay. So here's the caveat. If you use AI without talking to me about it and I find out, you're going to fail. I'm going to treat it as plagiarism. Okay. So that's all true of anything in this class. If I've got a pretty good BS filter, right? But I also have a lot of empathy. So if you get stuck, you get lost, and you have to communicate with me. All right. Attendance. I want you to be. I want you to want to be here as much as possible. You can watch videos. Did the COVID university thing. I think there's things that I learned from it. I was actually teaching online years before COVID ever happened. So I've been parts of businesses that have worked, and I've been parts of businesses that have failed. And it's really hard to pour your heart, blood, and your soul into someone else's idea and then have that opportunity kind of taken away from you. So when that happened, that's when I built Legendeer. Okay. So I said, what am I going to do? What do I want to make? So I've been through a lot of trial by fire. Okay. And if you're looking to be creative, your life is going to be a lot of trial by fire as you go through these things. Okay. So I'm going to say to you something that you know. What we do is very hard. Okay. You know that. You didn't come into that with your eyes closed. Your eyes were wide open. You were telling people what you wanted to do, and they're like, okay, right? So my background is I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I tell people that, and you say, oh, he's 6'3", he's kind of tall. Maybe he was athletic in his youth. My delusion of wanting to be a professional basketball and the reality came together when I was talking to my dad in high school, and he said, you're kind of getting ready, getting close to graduation. What do you want to do? I said, Dad, haven't told you this, but I really want to be an NBA basketball player. My dad goes, what else do you think about? I was like, I guess I want to be an artist. It's like, okay, I can kind of see that. Your mom's an artist. We'll see where it goes. So I was always kind of evenly balanced between athlete and artist. And at that point, I was going to the gym first thing in the morning by myself. I'd wake up at 5. I'd be there by 5:30. I'd practice by myself. I had a good friend who was a senior when I was a junior. He would show up. Um, I'd go to classes. I'd go during my lunch. I wouldn't eat lunch. I'd go shoot free throws. I would practice. Carry my basketball with me everywhere I went. And some of you cannot relate to this. You're not athletes. That's not your background, right? Some of you can, though. Then I would go to practice and I would practice. Then I would stay after practice and I would practice. I was as crazy about basketball as you can be about anything. When I decided to come to art school, I used to go by the name of Clint, which is my middle name, Clinton. I was blessed with 3 names, three last names, Sterling, Clinton, Hundley. And I knew that this was going to be a change. And I knew that I was leaving basketball behind and I was going to get serious about being an artist. I said, Mom, Dad, I wrote them a letter, said, I would like you to call me Sterling from now on, my first name, right? So it was a whole identity shift for me. And I said, I'm going to take all that energy and effort that I put into basketball and I'm going to put it into art. And I didn't have anybody in art foundations who outworked me, right? Not that I know of. So I'm a very focused and driven person, right? Again, you can't teach that. My sketchbook replaced my basketball. I carried my sketchbook around with me everywhere. I still do. And I just got into the practice and the habit of recognizing myself as an artist. Always drew, always made things, grew up in a creative home, but that was the shift for me when I came to art school, right? Maybe you can relate to that, maybe you can't, but I hope the passion part of it comes through and that resonates with you because that's what it takes. Everybody who's professional is an artist. There's nobody who's like, I kind of want to do this, right? You don't go work for Pixar by accident, right? You don't start a clothing brand by accident. You don't start a college by accident or an expedition company by accident. So all of these things come from focused intention. My job is to help you figure out what that thing is, at least that first thing, and figure out how to find the value in it. Sound good? All right. So we have our syllabus. We have Discord. How many of you have heard of Miro boards before? A couple of you? So Miro boards have quickly become the industry standard in entertainment arts, all right? What are Miro boards? Well, they should be free to you as students. There's even a free plan like everything else as professionals. And I don't know, this is the theory part, right? I use Miro boards with my clients and we collaborate. And you can drop images in, you can organize things, you can introduce workflows. And it's a really nice way for teams to kind of put all the pieces together. Discord is nice for kind of pings and everything else. But this, I hope, gives us visibility into the silos of projects in progress. All right. So what are we looking at here is like, it's just grids. I love boxes. Like I want to put everything in a box, but then the artist part of me is like totally chaotic and doesn't fit in a box. So I am a dichotomy for sure. Pretty self-explanatory. This is almost like a spreadsheet. When we break into our cohorts, I want you to post your progress for your cohorts into Miro boards. Okay, so let's say that you're in cohort 1 and this is week 1. You can choose one of these 6 boxes. I'd save one of these 5. Let's leave these for notes on the top left. And then you all can kind of self-assign where you want your stuff to fit. I'd say be consistent just so I can kind of see where things are. So I'd love to be able to come in here in class and be able to just kind of zoom in and say, okay, this is the progress you made for this week. This looks great. And I can actually have a check-in. You all can kind of have some visibility into projects too. That makes sense? Otherwise in Discord, it's just thread after thread after thread in your channels and it works, but it's not an overview here. This will go into a system and a process. And I'm going to show you this later this morning, sorry. And that's the third part of what we're doing. So I will lecture. We will have guest lectures, opportunity for you all to kind of have a Q&A with those people. So I want you to kind of do a little research. Hopefully I'll share their bios and everything else. And then we can kind of have an engagement with them. I don't want those sessions to go over an hour and 15 minutes total, right? So 45 minutes to an hour of just almost like inside the artist studio. It might be a little awkward. I'm going to be up here on stage with them if they're in person. If you guys have seen that before, I'm asking them the questions about the founding of their companies. How did you get started? What was the first thing you took to market? What gave you that ambition to be entrepreneurial in the first place? How did you outgrow your business? All of these types of questions that I hope is giving you information for your careers. All right. The third part of this is the cohort work, not an ideal space for cohorts, right? So the cool thing is 2 doors down, we have our other building and it's wide open right now. So we're going to take a moment after this. We'll spill down there. You can split up into your cohorts, collaborate. I can do demonstrations and everything else. So there's a little bit of lecture, but then we can actually produce things down there. Does that sound good? Cool. You can grab a cup of coffee between and everything else. All right. So that's the plan right now. as I have it. And I guess I should tell you the course description. The course prepares students for the business of creative practice. During the semester, we will bridge the gap between the skills you are learning in your major and complement them with business knowledge. So comm arts to business. Our gap isn't as big as fine arts to commerce, right? You're already here with that kind of expectation. Catalog description, you can read it. I'll read the outcomes again just so I'm crystal clear on this. This course has one clear outcome: make your first dollar. So you've expected to publish a product or service in the creative economy. While the goal may seem simple, you'll be required to address fundamental business principles to develop the resources to get there. You can't sell something to your mom or your grandma or your brother. You can't sell something that you're already selling, right? You can be in a marketplace, that's fine, but it has to be a new product. Okay, so if you're already selling prints, you're tabling, something like that, it just has to be a new image or a new print. Okay. You can't sell it to yourself, and you can't sell it to your classmates. All right. One of the things that we really struggle with in the creative economy is we always feel like we're selling to artists, right? Who historically does not have a ton of money, right? Artists. So we're buying and selling prints, we're exchanging things, and that's cool, but it's not a super sustainable business model, right? So we want to look outside of the arts industry, possibly and potentially. It doesn't have to be there, but we want to look to other places to identify problems and a need or a want for our work. All right. So let me ask a quick question. This is a little trivia here. If you want to sell a painting to somebody, right, go up in their house, is that a need or a want? I mean, they might really, really want it, right? They might say, I need that painting, right? But it's really a want, right? It doesn't have a function beyond an emotional connection and something that looks like nice on the wall or a personal connection, right? So entertainment, is that a need or a want? It's a want, right? Some would argue a need, but it's a want. If you create work for Pixar, we'll go back to that, is that work needed or wanted? It's needed. It's needed. And I say it's needed because Pixar has already established a demand. They have an audience. That company needs entertainment art, right? So it gets a little confusing, but there is a difference between those things. And you can sell things that people need or want, right? But it's easier to find value with the things we have when there's already a silo, there's already a business model that's been established. Does that make sense? So we don't have to invent the rules, right? What's harder is if you go out and say, I made a painting and now I have to go find somebody who wants to buy it. Come on in. Because you're kind of creating the market versus saying, you know what, I want to go work in this industry. There's already rules established. I just need to be of a standard where I'm creating things that have value in a place where value's already been proven. Does that make sense? Right. So I feel like a lot of what we go through as artists is feeling like we have to create or invent things like the whole thing. I've got to be an original. I have to do things that have never been seen before in an authentic and distinct way. And some of that is true, that if you want to stand out, that your novelty and your distinction is your value. That's your voice as an artist, right? But where that doesn't hold true is when you want to go work for somebody, right? Many of you want to go be employees, right? Show of hands. How many of you in this idea of employee versus independent contractor or freelancer, how many of you would like to be employees? All right. So that's a lot of you. And some people don't know, and some people are like, I want to do both. I do both, right? I'm an employee at the university and I do freelance work. That's my research. Okay. So it can be both. And how many of you want to be completely independent? You want to start your own studio. You want to build your own IP. You want to, okay, have your own label, right? So as you can imagine, that's got a longer runway to it. I'm not saying it's easier or harder because once you get into highly competitive jobs where you want to be an employee, you're going to be competing against the best of the best, right? And the best companies are going to have the best salaries. They're going to have benefits. They're going to have all sorts of perks that make you want to go work with them and for them, right? But if you want to be independent, You are building a business. It's going to be a small business. Maybe you have the ambitions of making it a big business. But all these structures have to be in place that you need to understand how to organize, how to market, how to put videos together, right? How to get your work into the marketplace and everything else. So that's when we're talking about trying to get something to marketplace. Even if you want to be an employee, I want you to know how to do that because you might want to treat it as your side hustle, right? Maybe your side hustle becomes something that's a multi-million-dollar company. It's a real thing. It happens, right? Maybe you want to be a content producer and have a passive income stream that adds on top of it. Production is not passive, but it could get to that place. Okay. So these are all things I just want you thinking about. So I've got to look back at this. I've been doctoring this. I'm like 10 weeks or 12 weeks to launch. I may have put it back at 10 weeks, but um, the goal is that we launch not at the end of the semester, but during the semester. Why is that? It's like, well, you got to have time to actually tell people about what you're doing. So we got to get into the marketing and the talking about things. Okay. So that is subject to the syllabus. I got the timeline worked out there. That 12 weeks might be 10. We'll know in a second. I told you about the method, how we're doing this. Here's our schedule. This is just kind of generic right now. Orientation, lecture, research. I know what we're doing today with absolute clarity. And then as we go, I've got lots of lectures. I'm going to kind of see how that works out and see how the cohorts function. So we will know a little bit more in detail next week. All right. So that kind of repeats lecture, guest speaker, cohort. Speaker days are things I've confirmed. I'm going to try to bring in more guest speakers as I can. Okay. And then I've got October 31st is our actual launch date. Okay. That gives us a few weeks leading up to Thanksgiving break. We have that one kind of week after Thanksgiving break. That's going to be where you actually present. And how, well, I want you up here. A group this size, we got to go fast. So let me ask, has anyone launched a Kickstarter campaign before? Anyone have ambitions of doing something like crowdfunding? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, don't worry. It's not necessarily right now, right? But soon. I used to require my seniors all to sign up for Kickstarter. And I would have them go through the entire prompts from Kickstarter. You got to think about the product. You have to actually price it. You have to reach out to people who will make the things for you. You have to look at shipping. You have to decide if you're going to do national shipping versus international shipping, right? All this stuff. Does it make you a little anxious? It's not the fun part of business. The fun part of business is setting a goal and reaching it, getting to make something that you've kind of envisioned and dreamed and people are paying you for it, right? That's the goal for it. But as we go through Kickstarter, one of the things that I stopped short of having them make videos and actually launching. It's like, well, if you've got the momentum, you have the premise, you have a product or service in mind, and you're that close, some of them will actually take it forward. And that's where those successful campaigns kind of came from. Okay. So what we're is I'm going to ask you to actually put together a 30-second video that explains your product or service. So I can't have necessarily everybody come up here and talk, but I can certainly play 30-second videos and then show your pitch deck. So those are our major outcomes, right? And if you don't know what pitch deck is, don't worry, I'll teach you. But basically, this is the thing that you're putting together to be the aggregate of all the stuff that you put together. If you can imagine, if you're building a product or service, you're going to have marketing components to it, right? You're going to have a prototype, kind of proof of concept. You're going to have a logo. You're going to have some language that's kind of a mission statement or your artist statement, your sense of purpose. You're going to have a mailing list. I'm going to show you how to capture mailing lists. We're going to talk about things that you might not know about, like lead magnets, right? Statements of work, contracts. I'm really hoping I can get my friend who's a copyright lawyer to come in too. So lots of stuff. Do is hear me drone on about things too long. But any questions on this so far? All right, I hope it gives you some structure and helps relieve the anxiety just a little bit. All right. So other things here, I told you a little bit about me. If you want to know more, you can kind of go over to the home tab here. Syllabus here, I'll get that turned on today as soon as I'm done. Course information, and here is my bio. Again, I do lots of things. This isn't even showing up. I don't know why. Uh, right now, I'm in a place where my focus is on this program we have called the Applied Arts Lab. I'll meet after this class, but it's really kind of a spinoff of Legendeer and my ambition to teach the artists the value of their voice and the world the value of artists, right? And I think that we can be so much more than, let me do this, show you some, the pictures should be there. I think we can be so much more than just entertainers. Now, that's not dismissing entertainment. I work in that field, but I'm doing a lot of collaborating with the hospital. We're working with engineers. We have this really cool project. Anyone ever hear of Green Bank, West Virginia? Anybody from West Virginia? Sort of, kind of. So, Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia has the largest mobile telescope in the world. Looks like something out of James Bond. If you go there, there's all these giant radio telescopes and a lot of kind of back and forth, kind of embedding myself there. We are now scanning that radio telescope. We're working with CoStar Group, who I'm bringing someone in from there too, and we're building a 3D model of the radio telescope for their engineers and something they can use that has hopefully tremendous value to them. So we're doing a lot of stuff with technology, but really it all kind of comes down to, you know, for me, my love of drawing, and drawing is communication, right? So working in the hospitals, I've gone down there. I've done a lot of work with the surgeons and the healthcare providers. I've sat in surgeries. I've worked in the burn center and the cardiothoracic unit, and I'm finding ways of talking to people outside of creative arts. And I want to open that opportunity up for you all too. Okay. So that is a bit about me. That's kind of the gist of the structure of the class. It's I've been talking for almost an hour now, 45 minutes. We're going to take just a 10-minute break, get some coffee, come back in. I've got something I want to read to you and talk to you about as kind of a jumping off point. And then we're going to take another little break and we're going to go over to the Exchange building and I'm going to show you something that should help you structure your ideas. Sound good? All right, let's come back here at 10. So it gives you almost 15 minutes, a little over 15 minutes, and I'll do that component and we'll kind of jump into everything else. All right, thank you. All right. My first lesson is I need to give shorter breaks. That was a long one. Sorry. If y'all are working, what's that? Okay. Well, I think if the cohorts are together, that could be productive, but I don't want to waste time. Maybe you got a cup of coffee, maybe a restroom break. But what I want to do now is go through just some things I've written and kind of break them down. I do have a Substack called Think Louder if you're interested at all. There's a lot of this information that's on there that you can kind of go find that's repeated, but then I give some video notes and everything else on it kind of in between. And I want to treat this class a little bit like that, where I'm able to kind of fill some gaps in on some of the writing. But the first thing I want to kind of encourage you to think about is to go where they gather, right? So that's kind of my way of saying, find your tribe, find your community, go out and find people who are really into the things that you're into, right? It's easier to do than than it's ever been before. And, there's a lot of different things here that we can reach out to for resources. But let me read through this and see if it resonates with you. Right now, across all corners of the world, there are people leading lives of creative fulfillment. They are celebrated for their individuality, their courage, their honesty, for being themselves. The things that make them and the work that they do are a reflection of their distinct perspective of the world. So you've all heard this before, right? You write what you know. This is the rule for every author that's out there. You write what you know. When we're artists, we're trying to flavor the things that we make with through our own lens, through our own perspective. These individuals dictate fashion and find themselves at the bleeding edge of innovation. They write and define the ever-changing rules within industry. Creative industries are led by individuals who fiercely pursue their own voice and vision, right? Now, I've got a senior studio class that meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I have a student who came forward and said that they had a really ambitious goal. And I was thinking about that student. And I was thinking about that student, When I was having dinner with my wife and my kids, I was thinking about what they said the next day. And then I was thinking about why I was thinking about it so much. And it was like, they were so clear on what they wanted and what their ambition was. And I'm your first cheerleader. If you want to go out and say, I want to be the greatest artist who ever lived, I'm like, hell yeah, me too. Okay. But what does that look like? And we can't go from where you are to that without defining kind of metrics and really understanding what that means, right? So when you're going out into creative markets and industry, you'll hear me talk about this idea of distinction quite a bit. I've got a lecture to give you on that as well. But it really is the lifeblood of what we do, right? So think about how you learn. You're going through Art Foundations here. You have a foundations program. What's it teaching you? Well, teaching you foundations. It's teaching you basic core tenets and principles of how to make pictures, how to make things, how to get things from here onto the page. Those are the fundamentals, and that's where we find consensus, right? You go into figure drawing, and in the beginning, in figure drawing classes, instructor comes around and says, that looks pretty good. Why does it look pretty good? Well, it looks like the thing that you're looking at, and you agree. So where things get really hard as artists is where you have to make the deliberate decision to leave the known, and you start to pursue the things that are unknown. Why? Because you're curious about them, because you have an idea, you have a thought, and it drives you to kind of seek answers. And I would argue that it's your job as artists, our job as artists, to go into the unknown and show people what we found. Does that make sense? Regardless of your interests, there are people meeting, speaking, and working together that know exactly how you feel. Seek them out and share your work. The more you give, the more you're given. You'll be encouraged, supported, challenged, defeated, afraid, overjoyed. You'll be alive. All right? How many of you feel like you've found a group of people already that share your creative interests? That's what school is, right? If it's doing it right, that's what school is supposed to be. Like, oh, I was at high school. I was kind of on my own. I felt like I was an outcast. And you go to art school, like, here are all the outcasts. We came together, right? So I told you about my basketball past and my sports. Yes, I was on a team, but I always felt like an outlier, right? That's why I was always by myself carrying my basketball around. Okay. So hopefully you've kind of found your group, your tribe, as they say. And that's my first bit of advice is you want to go to these places where people are coming together. All right. So the next thing is you're going to have to make a decision. Are you approaching this as a hobby or a business? So you see this device that I use all the time of verses, right? I truly believe that conflict is the beating heart of creativity and our attempt to kind of resolve it and confront conflict, right? So if you think about drama, what is drama? Well, it's opposing points of conflict. You think about how you're kind of hardwired to notice the car accident as you drive by, to watch the news. We are drawn to conflict, right? I'll save that for another lecture, but really, I think that it's primal. I think that the reason that we're drawn to conflict was we find the differences because we needed it for our survival, right? We've kind of evolved beyond that for the most part, but we are still drawn to conflict and it's hardwired into us. So your first decision when it comes to your project, is it a hobby or business? Our motivators for creating something that has an inherent value to us is significantly different than if we are creating something to be valued by others. Both can be fulfilling and neither is the wrong answer, but you must arrive at an answer. So one thing I'm going to keep pushing you to do is make decisions. I'm thrilled for you to make bad decisions, right? We iterate, we develop, we change, we evolve when we make bad decisions. I've made plenty of them. I will share a lot of my failures with you, right? But every once in a while, you have a success and you build on that success and you keep building on it, and your successes will override your failures. But what you cannot do is sit complacently by and not make choices. That type of apathy, it leads nowhere. It's an endless loop, right? In this decision, you are seeking to align your work with a particular audience and the industry that serves them. While there are exceptions, and many of us paint for ourselves, there are still rules to understand that define industries if our personal efforts are to be seen as having value to others. What I'm saying there is that, again, I said it earlier, you don't have to write the rules. You don't have to invent something from nothing, right? Do any of you feel like that? Like I've got to build this thing. I've got to I carry this heavy weight that I've got to just start from scratch. It's not like that. You don't have to, you're not responsible for every single mark that you make. You don't have to start looking at the blank page every single time. Do you believe this to be true, that it's easier to kind of start something once it's been started? How many of you struggle starting? I get so terrified going into the studio and having to start. I'll avoid it. I'll drink an extra cup of coffee. I'll clean my studio. I'll make my bed, right? I'll go for a walk. I'll do anything other than actually starting because I feel like once you start, you make that first mark, you've got judgment, especially if you're working professionally. Like, I'm going to put this out in the world. It looks like crap. What am I doing? Okay. As you look to capture your ideas this week, and that will be part of your task, I want you to give thought to what form your project might take. You don't have to write the rules, but you need to know what they are. Okay. So if you know the game, you get to decide whether you play the game or not. And knowing how intense competition is or how sparse income is for a certain artist working in a certain area, don't you want to know those things? Right? It'll kind of flavor kind of what you decide to do. All right. As a general rule, you should put yourself within the professional context of your trade or your industry. Who's going to Lightbox this year? Can't afford it. Who wants to go to Lightbox this year? Who feels like they really should be at Lightbox this year? Several people, right? Light, good question. I should have explained. Lightbox is kind of the industry. I would say it's become the best show in the industry for entertainment arts right now, right? I mean, you could argue that SIGGRAPH does tons of stuff, and that's fantastic too. But Lightbox is like all the professionals I talk to, like that's kind of the place to be. You went, right? I'd love to go, but it's an example of a place where people are doing what? Where they gather. And it's so easy to talk to people when you go to a place where everybody's kind of geeking out about the same thing, right? So you're super passionate, they're passionate. There's no walls to get past. Like, you might be nervous about meeting somebody that you're a fan of, right? But it's not a foreign language. It's not like you're going down to the hospital, like I did, and having to convince them that your art has value, right? Which I did figure out. So there's a couple things that I want you to do. And I've got some examples here, links for you to check out. I do want you to go through. I'm not going to check this or grade this, but I want you to sign up for 2 job seeker profiles. Okay, does anyone know what job seekers are? Kind of that idea. So let me click out over here and see if I can open this up. I think somebody should reach out to creativeheads.net and offer to redesign their website. It's really useful, right? So if you're looking for jobs in academia, which many of you will not be, or professional studios, creativeheads.net is a fantastic resource, right? So what's cool about this is you can kind of go to it and say, I'm going to create a job seeker profile. You put in your information and you tell them the type of job that you're looking for, right? One of the biggest challenges that you're going to have, that we all have when we're learning new things, is we don't know what we don't know. So you don't know how to search. You don't know that you should be searching. And when I talk about someone who wants to be a character artist versus a concept artist, whereas no, I just talked to you, it's kind of ambitions and dreams there. You want to know what the differences are between them, because a character artist isn't what we think it is by professional standards. So we're getting the language wrong. You might want to design characters, but oftentimes what a character artist is doing is more technical. Okay. So those are things to know. And how do you learn them? Well, when you sign up for a job seeker profile and you say, maybe you don't want to be an art director, but you sign up for that profile, you're getting directors. And what are they going to do? They're going to tell you what skills you have to have, how much experience, what software you need to know. So it's a passive way of collecting information and doing research when you don't know the answers. So I've got job seeker profiles on LinkedIn, Indeed, Creative Head. Marker, which is a video game specific uh, series here or website. Let me just read them. ArtStation, let's see, ZipRecruiter, Aquint, and anyone who's a gallery artist do things like call for entry or public calls for entry, where you can figure out which cities have grant money and what fellowship opportunities are and everything else. So these are all links here. Sign up for 2. You can do more, right? But please sign up and start reading that information. It's just a real fast and easy way for you to start educating yourselves really by doing something that doesn't take much effort. Does that make sense? All right. So following up on what I'm saying about going where they gather, a call to the clearing. More importantly, you will see that there are definitive boundaries, rules. It is said that you don't know what you don't know. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, but kind of I wrote this and haven't read it in a while. Starting something new means that you will be clumsy and search through a dense and opaque fog. There's something calling to you, but you don't know how to get there, only that you have to. You're drawn to it in inexplicable ways, unpronounceable ways too, but it speaks to you on a subliminal and primal level. Do you all feel that? Like you feel like you have to feel it. You wouldn't go into art school if you weren't drawn to this, right? There's been something that's spoken to you in your education, in your background. You're watching something, you're playing a video game, right? You traveled, you went to a museum, but something made it click for you. Like, I want to do that. I want to figure that stuff out, right? And I bet that you can go back to kind of those primary fundamental years. And if you really think about it, you can stir up a memory where you made something and it had an impact or effect that stuck with you. Right? Does anyone like connect with that? I'll share mine. I was kindergarten, first grade, somewhere in there. And Thanksgiving, the teacher asked us to do drawings. And I grew up, I told you a little bit about my parents. My dad, yes, was an entrepreneur. He's also written 5 novels. He's a huge history buff and loves the American Civil War. They ran a military shop up in Ashland for years. My mom is a designer by trade. And anyways, they both have taken us in interesting directions. So my background was I had a lot of time out in the wilderness where my dad was relic hunting, looking for artifacts, and he would find bayonets, artillery shells, buttons, and it was a world of rust and history. Their other passion was Native American history, and we would scour the ground of recently tilled fields for arrowheads and spear points. So rust and stones. I grew up with that stuff. My parents would find it. I found a few things, and my mom would put them together in these beautiful displays, and I grew up with that aesthetic. So I was in kindergarten, and I was talking to we were doing these drawings, and I decided to draw a Native American brave. Right, that was in my wheelhouse, something I was interested in. I put it up on the wall, and I looked around. I remember like sitting back, and I was like, "Mine's the best." Right, and maybe I was a cocky kid, maybe I had experience drawing, but then I remember the teacher like getting the whole class, and she was like, "Who did that?" And she brought everybody over, and they were looking at my drawing. I was like, "Mine is the best." Right. So to this day, I'm wired the same way. I make things and I want people to respond to them. I want them to get excited. That hasn't changed from the time I was very small to now. So I bet for you that if you do some digging, you can remember back somebody or something, an experience, something that you made that affected you in a significant and impactful way, right? So I'm kind of paraphrasing here. Instead of reading this, I think it's easier to talk about it. If you want to read this, it's probably better written than I said. I don't have long dramatic pauses, but the whole section, "You're already infected," is what it's talking about. You already have been inspired. I think that we waste a lot of time searching for inspiration. You can look for information, you can research, but if you're not inspired, I mean, we have to agree that we live in interesting times. Not easy times, but they are interesting, right? So if you believe what a lot of artists have traditionally believed, we are here to document the times in which we live. Say something. Have something to say. All right. So a few questions for you. Just priming questions, things to think about. Where will you work? When will you work? How long will you work? Right. So what's cool about freelance is like you get to control those variables. When you're an employee, you don't really have that control. What problem are you trying to solve? What tools do you need to accomplish this work? What distractions will you face? That's a big one. How can you alleviate these distractions? What will you have to show for your efforts when you're done? I had a really bad problem of playing Call of Duty special ops or, you know, something like that. And I couldn't stop. Played it all the time. Should have been working, stayed up really late. So what I didn't have was the willpower to make myself not play. What I did have was the willpower in a moment to snap the disc in half and destroy. You can't do that anymore. But I didn't play Call of Duty anymore after that. And yeah, but I got a lot of money, a lot of value out of that. So, um, anyways, there's things that you can identify as distractions, and there's solutions, maybe not as extreme as that, to kind of get rid of them. All right, so I've got a video on here, kind of recap some of these things. You're welcome to watch through that. I want to move on to kind of what we're doing with this. So I want you to take this week. I'm going to show you a practice over here today that helps you get some of these ideas out of your head and onto the page. And this is more kind of writing. Feel free to read through it here. Sorry, got a lot of pieces in here. I'm going to ask you to do really two things this week. The first is a little exercise I call the purge paper. All right. Not the most pleasant thing, but you're trying to get all the stuff out of here and in here out on the page. This isn't like a hypothetical exercise. When I was heartbroken, living in Kansas City, my now wife, then girlfriend, was still here because I had graduated and moved out there to study. I was just lost. I didn't know what I should be working on. I didn't know where I was going with my work. So I started journaling a lot. Anybody journal in here? Journals, sketchbooks, pictures, words. It's, you know, it all works. Yeah, I do that too. So I started asking these big questions like, what do you want and what do you need? So you'll see an exercise listed in the assignments here, and that's where I start. What do you want and what do you need? They're not always the same thing, right? You may have been brought up with a fiercely independent streak, and you just have to start the next major studio. You have to create your own IP. You have to do things yourselves. Or you may have grown up in a family that had a lot of issues with finances or health issues, and you need stability. That's the thing that you need. And maybe both is true, right? We'll see. But you need to identify those things. So your purge paper, the whole point is that you're writing this thing. I want it to take as long as you need. And you're trying to answer those ideas. What do you need? What do you want? What is your genesis of creative identity? When was that moment where you're like, I'm an artist? And I want you to be able to name those things, because if you can identify those motivators that got you excited about art in the first place, when things get really hard in the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 5 years, and you're trying to figure out what your direction, your purpose is, you have an exercise to go back to, like, oh, this is what I need, this is what I want. What are my resources? This is how I go out and get them. I go back to this exercise all the time. My wife's like, are you going through a creative midlife crisis? I'm like, baby, I'm an artist. I'm in crisis all the time. All right. So this exercise is how I get through that. And then from there, with this idea of searching for the product or service you're going to have, you're going to draft a mission statement that you will share. So the purge paper is for you. I don't want to see it. I refuse to see it. I don't want you to be guarded with what you've written. It should be personal. It's going to be hard. I don't care if you're an open book. You're like, I don't care if anybody reads. I don't want to read it. I don't have time to read it. But your mission statement is something that I actually want you to be able to say in front of each other, right? When I go out and say, I'm here on a mission to help artists find their voice or see the value in their voice and the world to see the value in artists, I believe it. It's not false. It's something that feels true. So I want you to be able to write these things and say them. So that is the result of your writing exercise down to your mission statement, right? And I hope that this gives you the foundation for the product or the service that you want to make to get out to market. Now our business is in line with our personal interest and our passion. That's what really good business does. Okay? So that is the goal. I'm going to walk you through this process here next door. I call it the idea catcher. And if you're like me, and we were just talking up here, I was talking to Mo and Victoria, and he had a really interesting name. Start with a C. Cedar. Okay, sorry, I'm learning. So just kind of talking about I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, and I've kind of the joke is my wife has, and she's like, "Baby, you're so much worse than I am," right? So I have trouble that my mind is not where my body is most of the time. I'm dreaming all the time. So what this does is it gives you a mechanism to actually capture your ideas and a system to process them. All right. So the great thing about sketchbooks is they're with us all the time. We can draw on them, we can write in them. But the downside is that they're linear. And what happens when you put a sketchbook down, you finish the sketchbook, you put it on the shelf, we don't usually go back and look at them. So we're going to be working with a system of things here, starting with note cards. Anybody write in here? Great. A lot of writers. I love that. I'm a writer too. In fact, I'm going to challenge you all to be authors with a capital A. You're going to author opportunities, right? But a lot of that starts with writing. Anybody use note cards to write with? Okay. This is a tried and true method for writing, right? I'll talk to you a little bit more about that, but note cards are amazing. I actually don't like the really big ones. They're too big. That's what I have today. I like the smaller ones. But our idea is that we're going to take those things and any ideas that you have, we're going to put them down on tab closed, right? Your mind doesn't have to spin on it anymore. It's been captured. Then you're going to take those things, then bring it today, and you're going to put it in a note card container. Okay? That note card container, I have one that's called a catch-all, and it really just catches all of my ideas. What's going to happen? Well, it's going to fill up. And when it fills up, you take it out, you lay everything out on the table, and let me see if I show this. So one card, one idea, catch all. You lay it on the table. And what's really cool about this, just like I did with the Miro board, we'll be able to see into all the silos and everything at once. This gives you like a 30,000 foot perspective of all the stuff bouncing around in your head, right? Then it's our job to kind of start finding patterns. You start sorting these things. This is an idea for a painting for a show. This is an idea for a game I want to make. Here's a character that I have developed for a children's book. And then you start sorting things like, actually that character for the children's book would be a great protagonist for my video game. You put them in a pile together. You start building piles and piles. After you sort those things, if the pile gets big enough, it gets its own note card container. Now you have a project. Okay? So I have tons and tons of these note card containers with systemized thinking and ideas that relate to each other. And when I get serious about things, I start taking notes and they move to the big folder. So my note cards go in here, my papers, my drawings, and everything else. So the things I'm really serious about start getting these accordion folders, and I've got them filed away in my office. So I've got everything kind of at its due time, its due process. Where it gets really interesting is, and all this is here, you can read through it. When you take those note cards out and you put them in sequence, and now you're writing, and you have a book. Okay? So these are all things that are note cards and thoughts and ideas. I've got them taped in, taking advantage of a sketchbook now that's linear. I have a sequence, I have an outline, and that's kind of how I begin writing my drafts. Yes. I'd like you to. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I would. All right. So that is the first version of my book that I have written, haven't published yet, and that's the second version. So it just keeps getting tighter and tighter, just like you going through art foundations, get into your major, get into your specialization, Like it's a funneling process, right? So anyways, that's the process. It works for my mind. The cool thing about it is that this isn't like completely invented or completely new. Anyone know Quentin Tarantino? Of course you do, right? Um, the way Quentin Tarantino tells stories was completely novel when he started it, right? I would even say that like that Christopher Nolan approach, Quentin Tarantino, like this broken, fragmented story. There was a time where stories were not told that way. And I give a lot of credit to Tarantino for kind of breaking the mold because he'll start at the end and end at the beginning, right? How's that happen? Well, he's writing with note cards. I'm willing to bet, right? Could be proven wrong, but I'm willing to bet because you lay out your note cards, you have your story beats, you have your high points, right? Then you have to figure out how to go from one section to another, one section to another. And what's really interesting is once you figure that out, you can say, well, what if I took the end and I put it in the beginning? You can just move your cards. There's a bit of writing software called Scrivener that uses note cards, and you can take that and take all your Word documents and everything else, put them right in Scrivener. So all these things are meant to be a writing tool and an organizational tool. All right. Maybe it doesn't work for you. If you got something better, you're using Notion or Evernote or something else, teach me. I haven't found, my system is a system of broken systems that I put together and it kind of works for me. Right. But I'd really like you to give this a shot. Try it out. And again, I'm going to kind of show you some of these things in person next door. We can kind of go check out the space. Anyways, all that is there. I've got a video demonstration of how that works too. If you want to go back and you're confused by it, I'll walk it through on a comic that I'm writing. So you can kind of check that out. Okay. That is the big stuff there. Any questions for me? All right. So 2 jobs this week. Your homework is to write your purge paper and extract that down into a mission statement, right? That'll get clearer if you use this process and you capture ideas and you walk through the idea craft process, or idea catcher process, sorry. And you kind of go through and you have the ideas, then you can kind of work on your mission statement. I would love to see that you've made progress on those things. I want to see the Miro board updated with, you can put your mission statement in there. You can also put your sketch work, your process work, and then I'm going to assign the cohorts today and we can kind of get together as groups and talk through things a little bit. All right. Noah, what you got? It's based off of cohorts, but you'll have your own board in each week. So if you go back to this as an example, this may be your Miro board for the semester. So you would have, let's say that we had you here, here, here. You consistently like each week. Does that make sense? So week 1, 2, 3, you go through, and you would be in cohort 1 if that was the example, right? Yeah. That's a great question. Pretty direct and simple. I've got everything set up as a template. So really what you just need to do is you're going to kind of capture, photograph your artwork and everything else. You're going to scan it. Sorry, this is my old man eyes here. They like to hide the upload down below. Do you see? Okay. It's super tiny. Images and icons. Okay. Nope. I'll show you how not to use it, right? This is kind of like when I get on the phone and try to help my parents with the internet or something. Like, just push the button. All right. So upload my device. And if I wanted to put something up here, see if that shows up. Okay. That's there. You can grab it. You can scale it. And you can just drop it into this. I did test this out with some of my projects to make sure I could zoom and we could still kind of get an overview of what you're doing. So the resolution should be good. And that's all I want you to do. Just kind of drop your stuff in there, organize it, and yeah. So it'll get more clear. Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So this is week 1, right? So just let me know if this makes sense. Week 1, 2, 3. There's a week for everything, and that's a vertical column, right? And I don't blame you. This is it's a lot to throw at you. Yeah. So just follow the link, sign up for an account. The link should take you to this board, the link that I shared, and you will see I'm going to give you all cohorts here in just a moment. So you'll find your cohort, and I don't care on day one which of these 5 boxes, because each cohort is 4 or 5 students. Okay. I don't care which one of these 5 boxes you post your work in, but be consistent. So this is I've asked for your um, mission statement. You can post there, and as well as your any work that you do with your idea catcher type of process work. If you've come up with an idea, you've got any sketch process, you just take a snapshot of the postcards and everything else. Just one picture and your mission statement. It's in the assignment instructions. Did I lose you on part of that though? So I want to clarify something else too. No, no, no. My mantra as a professor is uh, if I say something that you don't understand, it's my fault, not yours. Okay. But you have to ask me questions. So this is exactly what you should be doing. And if it doesn't make sense after I show you, I will show you in person. Okay. All right. So yes. Yep. Thank you for clarifying. Yes. I want you to come up with the thing that you want to take to market, like at least the rough edges of it. I want to see the process work that goes into it. So if you decide you want to make a zine or an enamel pin or a print or a website or a service or anything else, uh, giving the thing kind of a name and knowing what it is what I'm looking for by next class. Mo, it's outside of the class. Explain. Oh yeah. Yeah, and in fact, that's a good place for me to rift. My brother and I are starting a print kind of pop culture company, and right now I'm pricing limited edition prints. I just did the artwork for Kurosawa's Ran, a bunch of things for Studio Canal, and so I'm trying to get limited prints for trying to do screenings. Um, that's what I'm trying to do here. This is our kind of company. These are our costs, our spreadsheets. I want to walk you through kind of case study, us building our business as an example throughout the semester. So there's going to be a lot of kind of carryover. I'm going down to Triple Stamp to kind of price things out. I'm going to Keith Fabry Design. So I think if you've got a sticker company and you want to bring in 100%, yes, please. What you got? No, you're iterating. Don't feel boxed in. I just want you to go through the process of getting ideas out. You're writing the paper. You're going to kind of work through this process with note cards and talk to your cohorts and everything else. You're going to just start bouncing ideas around. So no, don't feel boxed in yet. We are a slow takeoff, and then we are shooting for that kind of that mark for our launch, kind of 3/4 of the way through the semester. Yeah. Oh, VCU's got you don't have to have any connection to VCU whatsoever, right? The bigger, the more international, the better. Okay. So the question was like, do these have to be independent or can they be, should they be VCU affiliated? I mean, my whole goal here is to get you all out in the world, out of our bubble, right? So um, I'm even open to you all finding people to collaborate with in here. And if you all start businesses together from this class, from your cohort, I'm super happy about that. Okay. If you've got a strength and someone else has a weakness, you find somebody you're working with, like we're really syncing up, let's make something together. I'm totally cool with that. As long as there's an equal kind of division of work that's going on. Right. In fact, my very first business was started with a classmate. We started a design studio called the Box Studio, and I we didn't start in class, so I almost hit him with my bike one day, but you know, we appreciated each other's skill sets, and he went on and made a very successful studio. Yes. That's cool too. Yeah. So stopping short of my rules for AI, any business tool that you would have in the real world, I hate that term because we're in the real world, but outside of the academic bubble, is at your disposal. Okay. So let me give you an example. Who's heard of drop shipping before? Okay. People have heard of it. Do you know what, does anyone want to explain what it is? What you got? Yeah. What is your name, by the way? Taylor. Nice to meet you. Yeah. So there's so many businesses that use drop shipping or this purchase and they turn around and they sell it for more. Okay. Totally fine with that. Right. Because what you can do is you can take something, I mean, and this happens all the time, by the way, right? There's a lot of our products that are the exact same that are marketed different. That's just part of the nature of what we do. That's a cooler brand. This is more interesting, more impactful. This gives back to a cause that I care about, right? What about white labeling? Has anyone heard of white labeling before? You've heard of it? You have any idea what it is? It's like the next step up from drop shipping. So there's a company called Printful that you may have heard of. And you can go there now and set up an account, and they have thousands of things that they make. They hats and handbags and mouse pads and whatever you want, right? And you can take your designs and your logos, you can create a storefront, and you can sell something on your own website, and that order will go out to this drop ship company. They will do what's called white labeling. They'll put your logo on it and they'll ship it for you so you don't have to hold inventory and you make the profit margin that you decide. So if you owe them $14 for a ball cap and you sell a ball cap for 28 bucks, you make $14 and you never have to touch product. But it's got your logo, your brand, your identity. That's white labeling. I'm totally fine with that too. I like that. In fact, I do that. Okay. So when I say that you don't have to create the thing, right? You're not responsible for manufacturing, although we can look into that. Yes. This one is called Printful, Printful. You're welcome. All right. Your online stores, your shops, everything else. I know a lot of your tabling, you're doing enamel pins, you're doing all sorts of different things, right? My advice is to you is this. If you see something that exists in the world, then you can probably figure out how it was made and you can make it yourself, right? Cost prohibiting, right? So if you see someone who's got like embroidered shirt on a dress shirt, had a student did that, I thought it was super cool. You can figure out how to do that, right? Everything around you that is made by a person was an idea first. Okay. So it's just really interesting how connected we are in the things that answer the questions coming back. Right. All right. So again, case study, we'll see real time. This is pretty ambitious to kind of share our successes and failures, but the plan is to launch this sometime during the semester. All right. So those are kind of the big things I wanted to talk to you about. Just two major takeaways, two assignments. They are set up as assignments. Hopefully that's correct. There's a place for you to kind of um, post these. I do want you to double post. So you can post these on Miro so we can see them. And I want you to post them in Canvas so I can grade them. All right. One last thing that it's really important that I tell you about the grading rubric. I just want you to know how much weight this kind of carries because it's important to say. I've never done something like this before, but I'm putting a lot of weight on you making $1. You can pass the class with a C if you don't sell something, but 30% of your grade is going to rely on you making that first dollar. Okay? I want to make it a little stressful. I want you to really start thinking about what that is, but you've got to really be able to value yourselves as artists and figure out what it is that you're trying to do and trying to make. And once you go through this process once, you'll know how to do it for the rest of your lives. Okay? All right. 20% course participation and attendance. I'm not taking attendance. Again, I hope that you want to be here, Big part of this for me is just, I love your questions. I love knowing when I got something out there that's confusing. I want to get it right. Um, I want you to work with each other. That's a huge part of this is the cohorts, right? 10% cohort participation and then your final pitch. Why is so much weight being put on your final pitch? It's all of it together. You've already done the work. I've got the individual components. You've put it all together into a slide deck and a video. Okay. All right. We're going to just go over. I kind of showed you the overview of this process. So I don't need to do a demo, but let me show you the cohorts here, just so you know. Please remember the cohort that you're in, and you can find it under the People tab and Groups. All right. So we have our cohorts. And we're going to meet over there again. I'm going to kind of assign kind of spaces to meet. So when we default, we're just going through the learning curve today. All right. Any questions before we break out? It's going to get more chaotic over there. Yeah, sure. Just see your cohort again. You're welcome. I call it the idea catcher or catch all. Just a no card container.